The language of symbolism is a peculiar one. Sin embargo, tú puedes entender. For those of you who don't speak Spanish, what I said was, however, you can understand. Symbols can both veil and reveal meaning and significance, but until you possess the ability to decipher their meaning, you will need someone to interpret for you. If one is ever going to grasp the concept of the use of symbolism by secret societies and occult practitioners of magic, you must understand that numbers and symbols are a language all their own, just like any other language: Spanish, Italian, French, English, German, etc. And as with all these different languages, people who are fluent in the language of numerology and symbolism can communicate through symbols and numbers to others who understand that language just as easy as I am speaking to you now. However, for those who are not fluent in the language of symbolism, the message will be indecipherable in the same manner as someone speaking to you in a foreign language. This is done by practitioners of magic to hide the truth in plain sight, right in front of you. It also serves as a kind of informed consent, meaning by performing their rituals in public through the use of symbolism, they have done their due diligence by informing you of the evil and nefarious plans that they are carrying out that will most definitely affect you negatively. However, the fact that you did not understand what you actually witnessed is your problem and not theirs. Remember, we are discussing Babylon here, and we all know what happened at the Tower of Babel. The language was confounded. We also know that since the beginning, ancient civilizations have communicated through symbols like hieroglyphs. The use of symbols as a means of communication has never gone away. In fact, the letters that form the alphabet are nothing more than segmental symbols of a phonemic writing system. And to add to that fact, we decipher symbols constantly in our everyday lives. Therefore, in the most basic sense, every one of us already has a solid foundation in the understanding of symbols as a means of communication, not to mention the use of parables, analogies, metaphors, emblems, and similitudes found in the legends and fables that we were all introduced to through nursery rhymes and bedtime stories from our childhood, to the mythology and epic poems of the Egyptians, ancient Mesopotamians, Romans, and Greeks, to biblical parables and the symbolism now seen in music videos, movies, television shows, and news reports of today. It would be foolish and unreasonable to suggest or assume that in the modern world in which we now live, that symbolism is a dead language. On the contrary, I would postulate that the use of symbolism, especially in esoteric circles, is the principal means of communication, and the deliberate use of this skill and artifice is the foundation of which all orchestrated occult satanic rituals are contrived. My job as a watchman is to interpret these symbols for those who are not fluent in the language of occult symbolism. And to that end, we embark on another journey. In the previous video, we spoke about the murder of Mo 3 on a Dallas freeway.
A hip-hop musician named Mo 3 was approached by the killer on I-35. Both men stopped their vehicles. The victim got out, took off, started running, but was shot several times on the highway.
In that video, we spoke about the symbolism which connected Mo 3, who called himself Osama, to Osama bin Laden, the destruction of the Twin Towers on 9/11, and the building of the One World Tower as a reversal of Genesis 11:9, the Tower of Babel. This symbolism also connected to Obama signing the beam that was placed at the top of the One World Tower, as well as his reading of Psalm 46, declaring himself to be God on 9/11, all of which was meant to symbolize the rise of the King from the bottomless pit found in Revelation chapter 9, verse 11. In this picture of the scene from Mo3's shooting, you can see the Kroger truck, which has the words "Bringing Hope to the Table" written on its side. Again, this is clearly a reference to Obama, whose slogan was hope. Interestingly enough, the Dallas Police Department, who worked this high-profile scene, is headed by a distinguished woman of color in Chief Renee Hall. As it turns out, Chief Renee Hall was also connected to another very high-profile incident, the murder of Botham Jean by former Dallas police officer Amber Geiger on September 6, 2018. The date September 6th represents 7/6, since septem means 7, and as we discussed previously, the number 76 represents rebellion and revolution, as it connects to the American Revolution of 1776. We know that Obama also connected himself to 1776 by giving his speech at the American Revolution Museum in Philadelphia 76 days before Election Day.
Tonight, I want to talk as plainly as I can about the stakes in this election. Because what we do these next 76 days will echo through generations to come.
We also know that 7 plus 6 equals 13, which is also the number of rebellion, and points to Revelation 13, the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns, who receives a deadly head wound and lives, who is given power by the dragon to continue for 42 months, who blasphemes God, and who is given power over all kindreds and tongues and nations. As it pertains to the Botham Jean case, you may also remember that another distinguished woman of color, Judge Tammy Kemp, was the judge who sentenced Amber Geiger to a measly 10 years for killing Botham Jean in cold blood in his own home. The name of the apartment complex Botham was killed at is called Southside Flats. The symbolism here that connected to Obama was the fact that the South Side of Chicago is the place where Obama first began his career in public service, and the place where Michelle Obama grew up. It should be noted that Jean was from St. Lucia, and the name Lucia comes from Lucius, meaning light, which is a reference to Lucifer. Keep the reference to Lucius and Lucifer in mind, as we'll come back to it later. Judge Kemp, along with Botham's brother, did something controversial by giving Amber Geiger a hug at her sentencing. We also saw this symbolic gesture of compassion displayed by a former Oregon Ducks football player and assistant coach for San Francisco 49ers, who prevented a school shooting with a peculiar sign suspiciously positioned directly next to them that read, "Melts your heart." This was no coincidence. The connection to the O, or Oregon Ducks, was symbolic of the O for Obama. The O in this orchestrated event also connects to the previous video in the murder of King Von, who was from O Block in Chicago, the childhood home of Michelle Obama, and the place where Barack served as senator, who represented the 13th Legislative District in Chicago. There's that number 13 again, which represents rebellion. This even connects to the murder of Nipsey Hussle, who was a part of the neighborhood Rollin' 60s, or 6-0 Crip Gang. The number 6 can be substituted for the letter B for Barack and the O for Obama. As we've discussed previously, this event was also connected to Nipsey's friend, Cowboy, as well as Christopher Darden, who makes the connection to O.J. Simpson's slow speed chase in the white Bronco as a reference to the rider on the white horse found in Revelation 6:2. Nipsey was also connected with the pyramid as well.
Where we at, Nip?
Man, we in Tulum at the Mayan ruins. Just climbed off the pyramid, got to the top, seen the whole jungle, shooting a victory lap video.
Previously, we discussed the fact that Nipsey's victory lap connected to Obama's speech at Victory Tower in Berlin, where he made his announcement of the New World Order.
Think about it. The terrorists of September 11th plotted in Hamburg and trained in Kandahar and Karachi before killing thousands from all over the globe on American soil. As we speak, cars in Boston and factories in Beijing are melting the ice caps in the Arctic, shrinking coastlines in the Atlantic, and bringing drought to farms from Kansas to Kenya. Poorly secured nuclear material in the former Soviet Union, or secrets from a scientist in Pakistan could help build a bomb that detonates in Paris. The poppies in Afghanistan come to Berlin in the form of heroin. The poverty and violence in Somalia breeds the terror of tomorrow. The genocide in Darfur shames the conscience of us all. In this new world, such dangerous currents have swept along faster than our efforts to contain them. And that is why we cannot afford to be divided. No one nation, no matter how large or powerful, can defeat such challenges alone.
The pyramid, with the all-seeing eye of Lucifer sitting at its precipice, tells you all you need to know about the New World Order. As it turns out, Police Chief Renee Hall and Judge Tammy Kemp are closely acquainted with each other. In this photo, they can be seen connecting their hands together, making the pyramid or delta hand sign. Both of these women are part of a secret sisterhood called Delta Sigma Theta sorority. Is it just a coincidence that this sorority uses the same symbol that the secret society of Freemasons uses? Delta Sigma Theta sorority colors are crimson and cream. The letters CC connect them with the Freemasonic number 33, which is associated with order out of chaos. And they are also called the Reds. The color crimson or red connects the deltas with the Scarlet Woman, Mystery Babylon, the mother of harlots, who rides the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns. For clarification, it is not my intention to besmirch the character of the women of Delta Sigma Theta sorority, so it is important to remember that we are discussing symbolism here, nothing more. The color red in the mother of harlots also connects to a recent story of the Pope liking a racy photo of a scantily clad Instagram model. This event occurred on November 20th, 2020, or 11/20/2020, which equals 44, since 1 + 1 + 2 = 4, and 2 + 2 = 4 as well, a reference to number 44, Obama. The model is Natalia Garibaldo. The name Natalia means the birth of the Lord. From nativity, it means birthday and is a reference to Christmas Day. We know that Christmas Day actually marks the birth of the pagan sun god Mithra, who was associated with the Greek sun god Helios and the Roman Sol Invictus. We saw Madonna associated with the Roman sun god through the solar disk on the breastplate of the Roman soldiers during her Super Bowl performance when she simulated giving birth to the Antichrist. The name Madonna and her song Like a Virgin obviously connects her with the Madonna, which is a representation of the Virgin Mary in the Catholic religion. Mithra was said to have been born of a virgin on December 25th, the day of the winter solstice. This connects the object of the Pope's sexual desires, Natalia, to the Queen of Heaven, Ishtar, Semiramis, the whore of Babylon, and her son, Tammuz, Isis and Horus, the sun god, all of whom were incorporated and converted into the Roman Catholic worship of the Queen of Heaven and her child. The name Garibaldo comes from Garibaldo, and the name is a reference to the red blouses worn by women in imitation of red shirts worn by followers of Giuseppe Garibaldi, the liberator of Italy. This connects Natalia to the Scarlet Woman, the mother of harlots, who the kings of the earth commit fornication with as well. Notice that she is wearing a very short red miniskirt. She is posing as a schoolgirl who is reaching into an open locker to retrieve her books for class. The book she is pulling out of the locker is the Pelican Brief. One of the most common alchemical symbols is the pelican. As 33rd degree Freemason and mystic Manly Hall explains, the pelican feeding its young from a self-inflicted wound in its own breast is accepted as an appropriate symbol of both sacrifice and resurrection. Ancient alchemy linked pelican symbols to the legendary Philosopher's Stone, which is said to turn metal into gold, symbolically representing turning man into God. This ideal is about revolution, and the stages of transformation are related to specific colors. The red stage, which is the feeding stage, is associated with the majestic pelican. The final stage, which is transmutation or rebirth, is symbolized by the phoenix bird reborn from the fire. Interestingly enough, the story concerning the Pope liking Natalia's photo was written by a man named John Thomas Didymus. The name Thomas Didymus is a reference to Thomas the Apostle, also called Didymus. Didymus means twin and is a reference to the twin beasts in the Antichrist, who is the first beast, see Revelation 13, 1-7, and the false prophet, who is the second beast, since they both have the same spirit, which is of the dragon. Revelation 13, verses 11 and 12 declares this about the false prophet. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon, and he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and he causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. The Pope is the second beast, the false prophet, who is connected with Mystery Babylon, the mother of harlots, the scarlet woman who rides the first beast with 7 heads and 10 horns, the king of the bottomless pit, the son of perdition, and rider on the white horse, the Antichrist, Barack Obama. Speaking of Obama, we know that he ran on the slogan of change. As we focus our attention back to the crimson or scarlet woman of the Deltas, it is important to recognize that their symbol, the Delta, actually means change. In fact, the Deltas acknowledged the change which Obama symbolized in a journal they published in 2009. And in 2013, Obama met with members of Delta Sigma Theta in the White House. Again, another reference to the number 13 and rebellion. It should be noted that George Floyd's death, which was connected with the coronavirus, was also connected to the theme of change through Trey the Truth's song, Time for Change, and the artwork even featured the pyramid with the all-seeing eye symbolism as well. This symbolism is the common theme, which is the thread that connects these events together. Speaking of change in the Delta hand sign, as it relates to George Floyd, you may remember that during the eulogy, Al Sharpton said that George Floyd's death would change the whole wide world.
God took the rejected stone and made him the cornerstone of a movement that's going to change the whole wide world.
This was truly a reference to the coronavirus, which indeed has changed the whole wide world, and shows that this was all orchestrated and planned. But more on that later. In the same manner that the story with Natalia, who represents the Scarlet Woman, and the Pope was connected to Didymus or twins, George Floyd was also connected to the twins as well, since he was killed in the twin city of Minneapolis and St. Paul, Minnesota, and Stephen Jackson made reference to him as being his twin.
I'm here because they're not going to demean the character of George Floyd. My twin.
The mention of the twins was also connected to Castor and Pollux, which connects to Acts 28, when the venomous serpent leaped out of the fire and bit the Apostle Paul on his hand, yet he suffered no harm. The bite that Paul received from the fiery serpent also was a reference to the coronavirus as well, since virus means the venom of a serpent. So we have in this one incident, George Floyd connected with the coronavirus that changed the world.
A movement that's going to change the whole wide world.
Now that we know the Delta means change or transformation, let's find out what the Sigma and Theta symbols mean. Sigma is derived from the Phoenician letter W or Shin. The Shin is known as the Vulcan hand salute and is used by the priests or Kohanim when praying in the synagogues. The Vulcan hand sign also connects to Vulcan or Hephaestus, the god of fire and volcanoes, which is a reference to Revelation 9:11, the king from the bottomless pit. The name Sigma in Greek also meant hissing, which connects it with the serpent. The symbol Theta in classical Athens was used as an abbreviation for the Greek Thantos, meaning death. The serpentine Agathos daemon was portrayed in iconography as the Asclepius symbol of medicine. In Greek mythology, the rod of Asclepius is a serpent-entwined rod wielded by the Greek god Asclepius, a deity associated with healing and medicine. We know that this symbolism connects back to Numbers 21, the serpent of brass that Moses placed upon a pole to heal the people after the Most High sent fiery serpents among the people to bite them as judgment for their sinfulness. It was this same symbol that we are told about in 2 Kings 18:4, called Nehushtan, that the children of Israel turned into a false idol and began to worship. This connects back to the George Floyd incident in the Twin City of Minneapolis, St. Paul, and is a reference to the Apostle Paul, who was bitten by the fiery serpent in Acts 28, but not harmed because he was a believer in Messiah, the true physician who had been raised upon the cross to heal the world. And it directly connects to coronavirus, since virus means the venom of a serpent. Therefore, Delta Sigma Theta symbols placed together actually mean the change or transformation of Vulcan, the fire god, the king of the bottomless pit, who is the serpent, will occur when his deadly head wound is healed. You may remember the scene from the movie Hancock when he was explaining how he suffered a deadly head wound and lived, and he says when he woke up, he was changed.
Come on. Yeah, my skull was fractured. Guess I was a regular guy before, and when I woke up, I was changed.
Earlier, we were discussing Mo3's death on the highway with the Kroger truck advertisement, which read, "Bringing hope to the table," and the fact that Chief Renee Hall and Judge Tammy Kemp, who are members of Delta Sigma Theta, were making the Delta hand sign as a symbol for change. Now tell me why Mo3 remixed Sam Cooke's legendary song, "A Change Gon' Come."
It's been a long, long time coming, but I know a change gon' come.
There's one more thing I want to show you concerning the Mo3 murder scene. Notice the billboard that has goodwill on it. First, it has one-eye symbolism. Moreover, this is a reference to world goodwill, which is connected to Lucius Trust in the UN, which focuses on defining new sustainable development goals for humanity. Lucius Trust was founded by occultist Alice Bailey, and it was originally called Lucifer Publishing Company. Lucius Trust is the publishing house which prints and disseminates United Nations material, and Alice Bailey suggests in her book, Education for New Age, that world citizenship should be the goal of the enlightened. As of December 3rd, Lucius Trust has an article called Conflict, Crisis, and Transformation on the Path to Global Cooperation. This transformation is the change they have been waiting for, the Great Reset. They will use the crisis of the worldwide pandemic as an excuse to usher in the New World Order under the guise of world goodwill.
Canada believes that a strong, coordinated response across the world and across sectors is essential. This pandemic has provided an opportunity for a reset.
In closing, it should be obvious by now that the world has reached a Rubicon. There is no turning back. As I told you back in March, when the global shutdown for coronavirus first began, the world will never go back to what it was previously. Now is the time for the world to choose which God they will serve. As for me and my house, we shall serve the Most High. If you have not surrendered your life to the Most High by accepting the blood sacrifice of the Paschal Lamb, Yahushua HaMashiach, which was shed on the cross for the redemption of sins, the time to do so is now. Amen. Shalom.